Hey everyone, it's your boy Razi here with another Hajime No Ippo video. Today we're going to go over about 4 chapters here, so buckle up. So first off, and I believe it was 1427, we saw the Kamigawa Gym card. We saw Itagaki win by another decision, making his record 17-2-0. Kimura had another draw, so he is 17-6-6 now. And Takamura takes on another top seed of the super middleweight division, making him 28-0. And I definitely think that at this point in the series, since we've seen him in the last 3 of his title fights that he had, I believe at this point we could say for sure that after each one of his title fights, Kamigawa is definitely making him fight the number 1 seed in every single division. I thought it was a one-off, but at this point, it's definitely going to be after every single weight. He beat this opponent in 3 rounds, making it so Kamigawa lets him challenge his next weight class, and finally stepping into the heavyweight class for the first time to conquer the light heavyweight division. We also heard that in 2 months it's going to be Mashiba's fight, and in 3 months away is going to be Sendo's. So those are definitely going to be the upcoming matches now. Miyata thinks that Sendo has no chance because in 5 days of training with him, there's been no scratches on his face. And also he let Ippo know that he doesn't want to fight Ricardo. Wanting the belt and wanting to fight Ricardo are 2 separate things. Ricardo is this legendary undefeated boxer, while he is just a regional champion. But there's still the other belt for the world. I don't exactly remember which one it is, but Ricardo has one and someone else has another. We haven't been introduced to that person yet, so I'm not entirely sure about how that would work out or what even kind of fighter he is. It makes me curious about why Ricardo doesn't go after the other belt and then is the undisputed reigning champ of the lightweight division. So no matter whoever wants to try to be the world champion, they have to go through him no matter what. So I'm curious about who this other champion would be. Ippo does an analysis on Ricardo and Miyata because of their pride and heart to take the fight to him. Ippo thinks about what Miyata said about how Sendo has no chance at Ricardo. He thinks about it and does an analysis on Ricardo and Miyata because of their pride and heart to take the fight to him and not depend on a decision win by outboxing, dodging, and running away. But if Sendo lands, it can change the entire fight, which we have seen multiple times before. The only hard part it's going to be for Sendo is using his probably one chance he has using his new anti-Ricardo method, which is basically like Ippo go all Oni-chan, like with fucking Miyata. Why does his face get more red looking at Miyata's face than he does looking at Kumi's face? Like, he has such difficult problems talking to Miyata, but he doesn't really have any problem talking to Kumi. He just has a problem like confessing to her. Maybe, just maybe he's batting for both sides. Maybe he likes Miyata more than he likes Kumi. That might explain why he hasn't laid down the pipe yet. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he's hoping for Miyata? I don't know. This can take a strange twist. Don't get upset. I'm just kidding. But seriously, it's weird. It's really weird. Then we move over to a conversation between Kumi and Ippo, and Kumi is thinking about Mashiba's well-being because of this champion, and this is probably the most difficult fight that he ever has. And Ippo is thinking about the promise he made to Mashiba, thinking about how, oh, he must mean that after the world champion and he finally gets the belt, then he'll allow him to be with her. Definitely not what he meant, but I'm hoping that with this kind of character arc that Mashiba is going through, and it seems like we're getting to the apex of, that after a resolution, and we'll see if he wins or loses, I'm betting that if he does training with Ippo and swallows his pride, then he'll understand how strong Ippo actually is and respect him even more, and then be able to win the match with Marcus. And then after that, he actually will allow Ippo to openly date Kumi. He's been really bashful about it and really hates it, but he knows that Ippo is the best possible person for Kumi. I mean, he only acknowledges people that are stronger than him to be able to take care of Kumi, and the only one who has beaten him so far, Ippo, and Ippo has been going out with her for a while, not necessarily dating because Ippo is Ippo, but still, hopefully that changes some too, because they're wanting to go to the beach together and they're wanting to swim and they wanting it to be private. So this is definitely could be a talk about potentially like some kind of, maybe, I don't know, maybe a little kiss for the first time. I don't know at this point. I'm hoping there might be a more romantic development happening after they go on this little beach vacation of theirs, because like I said, I'm questioning if Ippo is playing for the wrong side. I don't know. I believe also that this might be the point where if Mashiba does win or lose, I think that he's gonna be a bloody mess, because all of Marcus's fights have been extremely bloody. So I think he will end up in the hospital, and Kumi will have to take care of him and be his nurse for a long period of time. And so it'll kind of bring it full circle, where she kind of went into being a nurse for him in the first place and hasn't really needed to, because he's been relatively unscathed through all of his matches. But after this kind of brutal fight with this kind of opponent, I think this is definitely the time where that's finally going to come full circle, and he'll finally understand she's doing this for me. So like, I'm not the one protecting her and helping her. She's been helping me this entire time. You'll definitely give him one of the best character developments and best like character arcs in the entire story. He was probably in my top 10 favorite characters in the series, but with this new, I'll go over this in a second, but this new kind of beast of darkness, this dark side, where it's like, it's not necessarily, he doesn't necessarily want that kind of part of him. He's not just a angry street brawler like kind of Sendo is. Maybe we'll go into more Sendo's backstory and we'll have a better glimpse about his kind of character when we get to his. But as far as Mashiba, I like that it was like he was doing it for money in order to sustain them. Just because, he was good at it, it doesn't necessarily mean that he wanted to do it, and he didn't want to do it because of Kumi. He wanted to make her proud, and he didn't want to get in those fights and always be in trouble with the law. But I like that he is having this mental struggle of not wanting this side to come out, but it does in fights. But now, as we're kind of seeing, just like Berserk, you always have that monster inside you. You have that malice. Everyone has it. Everyone says that you see red, or I know some people that literally is how it goes. They don't see anything, they just see red, and they don't understand exactly what they're doing. It's definitely could be him. There's a lot of people like that, but I'm glad he's finally starting to realize that, and he's working on it. I definitely think he needs to incorporate it. A lot of fighters in the past have this alter ego that they do when they go in the ring. So he can have that in the ring, but he's also aware of his anger now. Even if he feels like cheating or brawling or doing fouls, he has the awareness to not do it, but also utilize that strength, that dark side of him that monster has, in order to use it for the right reasons. Honestly, I'm just psyched that basically he is a beast of darkness, which I think is kind of a memento. We also get kind of a Marcus breakdown where he's a bum rusher, infighter. He rushes right in at the bell, breaks them down while they feel the pressure. He has 25 fights, 20 wins, 2 losses, 18 KOs, and 3 no contests. He's a southpaw, 26, and he often has headbutts that will leave the opponent bloody. And Ippo is also going into how he has a similar form to the Dempsey roll when he weaves his upper body and his head. And he has a left hook that is similar to the Gazelle Punch to close in on people. So we're getting a lot of this information, and he's just breaking it down super in depth for us. And you can definitely see how far he has come in analyzing opponents throughout this entire time. He is leagues above when he was an active boxer. I can't wait to see like analysis coming from him when eventually he returns to the ring and he goes over their tapes, breaks it down, and finds weaknesses, and then finds ways that he can use his existing techniques and prepare himself for anything that might come. And Marcus is also the exact opposite of Mashiba, where his strength relies on his long range to keep people at bay, while Marcus obviously is an infighter, so he needs to push in order to do it. So majority of this fight is going to be how long the other person can keep them into their own range, because then they'll be swept up in their pace. Then we finally get into Mashiba's backstory. Looks like at the beginning, these people were in his house for some reason. I don't know if they're burglars or they broke in. We ended up beating the living shit out of him. Maybe we was just, caught off guard, or we thought Kumi was home, or I don't know, but apparently he went overboard and hurt them so bad that they wouldn't call it self-defense, which I think is a bunch of bullshit. I mean, if someone was in my house, I mean, I don't know about Japan, but if someone was in my house and like stealing or doing whatever, and if I thought somebody like my younger sister was home or anything like that, I would beat the living shit out of them too, and be like, oh, it was like this too far. It's like, but I mean, they could try to put like assault charges or something like that if it's to the point where they're like basically unconscious and he's still hitting them. But because usually the rule is that as long as they're able to defend themselves, then it's considered self-defense. But if they're no longer able to defend themselves and you're still doing it, then they could be charged for assault. So I don't know if that's the situation here, but I just think it's really weird as like these guys were in my house. They should be liable. I mean, people get shot, and stabbed if people enter their homes, but maybe it's different in Japan. I just don't understand. To me, I think that'd be righteous, but whatever. And then we move on to when Mashiba's home and his parents are scolding him for always getting into fights, and he's on probation, so he's not going to be a good role model for his sister. Then we finally see that the car crash that caused their parents' death, and then after that, Mashiba's led to have to do everything, so he goes to this agency where they're trying to help with finances, and they start talking about all these things that I'm pretty sure he was a minor at this point in the flashback, so he wouldn't understand anything like that, and have to sign up for insurance and having to do all these things and talking about what to do with their finances and how to grow it and maintain it, rationing it out. Like, he doesn't understand any of it, and apparently his father was taking out loans, so he still owes money, so he has, on top of that, he has loans he would have to pay back, and so he kind of has to trust these people in order to try to figure things out. And the guy ends up asking him to help him with a job. Doesn't have to do it, but all you have to do is show up and give him an undisclosed amount of money. I'm not entirely sure how much would be in that. Enough for him to make him do it, and then when he gets there, he finds out that he's fighting all these guys basically alone, because this guy doesn't want to pay his bodyguards or his fighters the amount of money that he needs to, or if he's doing their job where it's almost like a mafia kind of thing. I'm not entirely sure, where like they need money, or it's just scheduled street fights, or I'm not entirely sure the whole thing. But he says, oh, our guys aren't reliable, and he has a whole bunch of guys there, like he rolls up with guys, so I don't know. In the most recent chapter, we see a conversation between Sendo and Miyata talking about how it's beneficial for both of them for training basically high-level partners, someone who's lined up for a world title match and a regional champion. And Miyata is kind of giving him this cold shoulder where he's like, maybe you should be able to hit me instead of me just practicing dodging all the time. Sendo asks about Mashiba since his fight is a month before Sendo's, and apparently finding training partners is really difficult for them right now. And he's looking for an infighter that can emulate a left-handed infighter that's at high level. And Sendo's like, oh yeah, that's me. But really, it was like, I don't think Sendo would be a very good match for Mashiba at this point. Then we move over to Mashiba's gym, and they're having a problem with some of the Philippine fighters that they have over here for training, and they wanted to go back because they're basically punching bags because they can't push in on Mashiba, and they're not able to find anyone that'd be capable of pushing Mashiba, so they can kind of emulate Marcus, so they can go all out and train for a left-handed fighter. And they keep having this question about, where can we find such a person? And then we hop to, of course, Ippo, reviewing even more of Rosario on TV, and he's talking about his left jabs, and he's talking about his lead hand is his right, so it completely kills the left jab, which is basically one of Mashiba's strongest points. But then Mashiba has that new defensive style where he has that short range uppercut. But even in other fights have those same kind of conditions, he's able to dodge that. And again, he goes over kind of the Dempsey roll, and then he jumps into like a gazelle punch with the left jumping hook. I think this is really good for Ippo to learn, because not only will he have all these kind of skills and have this gazelle punch, but he'll be able to transition, and when he does the gazelle punch, he'll be able to either throw a hook or throw an uppercut, which gives him even more like of that versatility that he needs in order to become a more rounded fighter. It's funny that he's basically talking over and over again about like how is someone gonna replicate this? I was like, how is this angle gonna be? Who would be able to do all these things? Basically kind of a Dempsey roll and a gazelle punch, and as in the same weight class, and is able to push in, has experience with flickers and all this stuff. And I think it's hilarious at the end of the chapter where he's finally talking with Takamura, and Takamura is like, oh yeah. I was like, I think I know a person that could help. And he's like, what? No way. That's crazy. You're so knowledgeable, Takamura. And Takamura was like, yeah, it's not about knowledge. I just know somebody. He's like, know somebody who? Nearby? And he's like, you are fucking kidding me. Are you serious? He's like, and he even points to his eye. He calls him a dumbass. And it's just funny how fucking oblivious Ippo is to all this shit. Like, how can you have an in-depth analysis on each of the fighters, break down every single thing about them, and then not see his stupid fucking face? Is the person who's the best fit for him? Like, fucking duh, bro. I mean, is that the whole reason you went over to Mexico to spar with Volg? Because there was an in-fighter that was a rusher that always stuck with you, and they wanted someone to emulate that, so he did it? Like, why would you not think you're the perfect fit when you fit literally every single criteria? You're even comparing the things that he does to your own thing. Oh, I don't know, looks kind of like a Dempsey roll. Looks like a gazelle punch by his left hook. I don't know who could possibly do this. Like, bro, you're literally retired. You want to actively be in boxing. You've been at ringside in multiple world title matches at this point, and you've been a second at a world title match. Probably one of the most like high level fights that we've seen in the entire series. I don't think there's been a more high level fight than Wally versus Ricardo at this point. As for predictions, first off, I will say that obviously, I've said this before, I've said this in the podcast, if Mashiba has Ippo as a sparring partner, then I believe Mashiba is going to win against Rosario. If he can handle himself against a post-retirement Ippo, then he can definitely take on Marcus. At this point, we don't know anything about like Marcus. Well, I guess we're getting more and more information about Marcus and how he really is and his characteristics, but we haven't seen but he has to have other things in his arsenal. I mean, come on, he's a world champion. He's not gonna be that easy. And plus, I imagine there's gonna be a lot more elbows and a lot more headbutts than were shown. I mean, the only time we were shown kind of his fights was when Ippo was watching TV, and we didn't see them bloodied. So maybe it was early rounds and stuff like that, and they're just going to the main things. But I imagine that if he throws those hooks, that it's not only going to be his fist that's going to collide with him, but if he does miss, then he's going to turn in his fist closer to him, and then his elbow is going to come across and hit you in the chin or something like that. And obviously when he steps in, he steps in hard, and a lot of the times with southpaw fighters, when they step in, it's really easy to clash heads. So I imagine that Rosario at this point is used to it, and he actually counts on that. Like I said before, it's like Marcus is what Mashiba would have been if he didn't start changing his ways and kept on brawling. Same kind of cheating or getting things to get ahead and fouling that he did basically in the fight between him and Sawamura. If he stayed down that road, then he would have basically ended up just like Marcus. But now he has new morals. He doesn't want to do those things. He wants to be a boxer. He doesn't want to be a brawler. He doesn't want to be like that anymore. He wants people to be proud of him. He has hopes and dreams of basically the nation at this point. I mean, even the people that hired him, say like you're the pride of Japan, like you're the hope of Japan. So he doesn't want to do that by just fouling over and over again. How do you think the spar is going to turn out? Honestly, I think Mashiba is going to be really surprised about other things. I mean, along with the things he's going to try to emulate with Ippo, he's going to see like his parry abilities, he's going to see his counters, he's going to see his better timing, he's going to see that he's much faster, he's going to see how much harder he hits, he's going to see all these things that we were able to see versus the spar with Volg. And plus he's going to be able to emulate his left and work on his left. And we know one of the biggest points that one of the things he's been struggling with the most is how he neglected using his left for most of the time and just brute forced everything instead of actually using his left tactically. But now he's going to be doing that same thing, and he's going to be doing like the gazelle punch, still be able to use an uppercut, and he's going to be able to use a hook. He's going to be able to basically fake out a Dempsey roll by doing the same kind of thing, and which can lead him into a Dempsey roll. And he'll have all this versatility and all this arsenal built up at this point, and we'll be able to see that on probably full display. And since I imagine they still have a little while to go for it, Mashiba is going to be able to see that, oh, I thought he was strong then, and he's a strong person, and I really admired him. But now I see that he is a force of nature. He is a monster. He's a boxer that can challenge me, someone who's on the world level, and someone who can definitely answer the hopes and dreams of everyone that's been before him, and be that kind of poster child for his entire generation. And maybe he'll even do this, have this black backslash moment, just like Miyata, just like Volg, just like Sendo, of all of them saying like he doesn't seem like he's punch drunk. He's able to do all of these things, and if he got back into the ring, he'd be a force of nature. He'd literally tear through the division and be able to get up to the world ranks. And now he even has versatility of a southpaw boxer if he wanted to switch it up. We always known that he's able to use power in both his left and right hands equally. It's just a matter of getting down the basics and using his left in a tactical way. And now he's able to do that and switch it up. And now he's able to do kind of his gazelle punch and also mix that in with a left hook. That's kind of like gazelle punch. He'll be able to do that exact same thing with his right hand. So not only is he going to have all these different variations that he's able to use during the Dempsey roll, but now he's able to use the gazelle punch, which is kind of like a setup for the Dempsey roll, but people wouldn't be able to predict if the gazelle punch is coming, if they're going to aim for that, because he has so much variety in the Dempsey roll now, which would take him from a very one-dimensional boxer to a boxer that has the same adaptability and the same amount of arsenal that, like Juan Garcia. He had amazing like tactical abilities. He's able to utilize his left and his right, and he's able to control his opponent. He was able to use feints in order to set up other punches. I think Ippo will have that in spades by the time this is done. My predictions for the match versus Marcus versus Mashiba, I think it might emulate Jack versus Brown. I mean, it's kind of the opposite. It's kind of the person who with long punches and a sharp left is the left-handed boxer, and the infighter is the right-handed. But if you kind of switch those roles around, it's kind of the same thing, where it's just kind of him being rushed over and over again, lots of left hands. They collided heads a lot. There's a lot where he's basically being controlled and kind of pushed up against the ropes and constantly being rushed down the entire match. And then at one point, Brown actually clashed heads with Jack, which opened up a big gash in his forehead. And then he used hooks and uppercuts to kind of keep it bleeding throughout all the rounds. And I wouldn't be surprised if he lost a lot of blood, so he wasn't able to think clearly. It was definitely one of the bloodiest boxing matches in history, and I think it definitely would emulate that. There's going to be lots of short uppercuts and lots of head clashing the entire time. I wouldn't be surprised if there's lots of gashes in Mashiba's head, but I do still think as long as Mashiba swallows his pride and practices with Ippo, that he would be able to win this match. I won't be surprised if Mashiba is in the hospital for months afterwards, where he's in a really awful condition. Alright, that's all I have today. I hope you enjoyed the review. Let me know what your predictions are and what your thoughts are for the upcoming matches and everything that's happening down below in the comments. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you guys next time. Keep fighting on. Bye.